It's been 10 long years since the Star Wars Sequel Trilogy arrived at the big screen. It was the beginning of a new era for the Star Wars franchise that was started by George Lucas in 1977. It's also been 13 years since Disney purchased Lucasfilm and not only brought us a sequel trilogy, but also new Star Wars comics, novels, video games, and new shows both animated and live action such as Rebels, The Mandalorian, Andor, Obi-Wan Kenobi, The Bad Batch, Ahsoka, The Acolyte, Skeleton Crew, The Book of Boba Fett, and Visions. And also, there were movies taking place before the original trilogy such as Rogue One and Solo. When the teaser to Star Wars The Force Awakens was released, the hype was immediately large. But there were some people who believed that it was not going to live up to the spirit of what Star Wars was all about. Some people even went further than that, spewing extreme discontent for the teaser. Once the movie was released, there were fans that walked away happy. Others were still skeptical as they felt that this new movie was a repetition of what Star Wars Episode 4 A New Hope was. But then, when the next two movies were released, there were people who believed that the second movie of the sequel trilogy was a grand slam, while others believed that it mocked and ridiculed everything that Star Wars was all about. And then, when the third movie arrived, everyone agreed that it was an absolute failure. Does this trilogy deserve so much negativity? Should it get a little bit more respect? This is a defense of the Star Wars sequel trilogy. Before J.J. Abrams took the reins to make the sequel trilogy, George Lucas had planned a sequel trilogy of his own. A lot of people didn't like his prequel trilogy, some others did. In my opinion, the first of the prequels could have been better. The second one was not really that good, but the animated Clone Wars show redeemed it in many ways. The third one was the crown jewel. Why did a lot of people hate the prequel trilogy? It's a few issues such as writing, acting, pacing, and poorly executed plots. Still, in its defense, it shows how a government can be corrupted from within and how can one lose themselves to the darkness. And some can still see the good in others. I would also say that an order that fights for peace can also have flaws that they cannot even see most times. Now, George Lucas' planned trilogy focused on Anakin's grandchildren being the main characters and also featured the return of Darth Maul and his new apprentice Darth Talon being the villains. Darth Talon would seduce Han and Leia's son to the dark side of the Force. Leia will become the Supreme Chancellor and ends up being the Chosen One, while Luke reunites the surviving Jedi of Order 66 and rebuilds the Jedi Order. In this trilogy, much like the one we know, Luke also goes into exile and dies as well. There are people who say that this planned trilogy by George Lucas would have been so much better than the one we saw. Many would say that Lucas had a plan, yet J.J. Abrams, Rian Johnson, and Kathleen Kennedy did not. In my opinion, I gotta say it would have been awesome to see Lucas' planned trilogy. But after the way people received the prequel trilogy made by him and how toxic they were towards him and other actors like Jake Lloyd, Ahmed Best, and Hayden Christensen, it's no wonder that their toxicity caused Lucas to say, "Why do I even bother?" And so, we ended up with a trilogy started by J.J. Abrams, who is known for numerous shows such as Felicity, Alias, Lost, Fringe, and Duster. His directorial film work includes Mission Impossible 3, Star Trek, Super 8, and Star Trek Into Darkness. He directed The Force Awakens, executive produced The Last Jedi, and returned to direct the ill-fated movie The Rise of Skywalker. The truth is that Disney rejected Lucas' planned sequel trilogy after purchasing Lucasfilm in 2012, choosing a different creative direction with J.J. Abrams, which left Lucas feeling betrayed as he provided treatments but the purchase agreement allowed Disney to ignore them, leading to the sequels focusing less on his ideas for Luke training new Jedi and more on scattered Empire remnants. I would admit that after reading this a year ago, it's one of the moments that I would totally look down on Disney. It could have been something phenomenal, but since Disney started to call the shots, it's no wonder we ended up with a trilogy provided by Abrams. Not saying that it is bad though. Yet at the same time, I respect Lucas' plans for canceling so he can raise his daughter. As they say, family comes first, and family is everything.